In the quiet village of Umidike, where the rooster's crow was louder than the cars on the road, lived a girl everyone praised, Amora. She was 16, tall and slim with deep brown eyes that sparkled like morning dew. Her skin glowed with the rich tone of the African earth, and her braided hair was always neat. But it was her behavior that made people love her the most. Amora was the type of girl every parent prayed for. She spoke softly, never argued, and always greeted elders with both hands, bowing her head with respect. That Amora, N. She is different. So humble, the market women would say as she passed by in her clean school uniform, carrying a plastic bag of vegetables for her mother. Her teachers at Umidike Secondary School always used her as an example. Why can't you all be like Amora? Madam Chinyo would shout during class, especially when the boys talked too much. Even in church, Amora sat quietly in the front row, Bible in hand, nodding as the pastor preached. The Women's Fellowship once gifted her a brand new school bag, saying, "A good girl deserves good things." But what people loved most was that Amora had no father, and yet never used it as an excuse to be rude or lazy. Her mother, Mama Ijeoma, sold okra, tomatoes, and dry fish at the roadside. Life wasn't easy, but they managed. Every evening, Amora would help her mother wash the trays, count the leftover change, and clean up their small one-room home. "You will make me proud one day," Mama Ijeoma always said, smiling as she tied her wrapper tighter around her waist. Amora would smile back. But inside, she didn't feel proud. She felt empty. At school, everyone believed she was focused on her studies. And it was true, Amora was smart. She always came first or second in her class. She dreamed of becoming a doctor, so she could help poor families like hers. She wanted to buy her mother a big house, take her on a plane, maybe even to another country. But behind her smiles and polite bows, Amora was tired. Tired of being called the good girl. Tired of always pretending. Sometimes, at night, she would lie on her mat, staring at the ceiling while Mama Ijeoma slept beside her, snoring softly. Thoughts filled her mind, dark thoughts. What if she wasn't meant to be this perfect girl? What if all this praise was just a trap? Nobody knew the questions that lived inside her. Nobody knew about the secrets she was already hiding. One evening, as the sun dipped low and painted the village sky in gold and orange, Amora walked alone to the backyard. She sat on a rock behind the old mango tree, her school books resting on her lap. But she didn't open them. Instead, she pulled out a small notebook, one she never showed anyone. Inside, she had written things. Feelings. Plans. Names. There were drawings too, of a girl in dark clothes, laughing loudly in a place full of lights and music. A different version of herself. Bold. Wild. Free. Amora closed the notebook and looked at the sky. "Maybe they only love the mask," she whispered. "Maybe they don't really know me at all." And with that, she stood up, brushed the dust off her skirt, and walked back inside, her face calm, her eyes quiet, and her secret hidden too well. The next term at Umidike Secondary School began just like any other. The sun rose gently over the red earth, students in faded uniforms marched through the school gate, and teachers prepared their chalk and lesson notes. Amora arrived early, as usual. Her uniform was spotless, her books neatly arranged in her bag. She greeted Madam Chinyo politely, who smiled and gave her a warm pat on the back. "Always on time. You'll make your mother proud," the teacher said. Amora smiled, but behind her perfect smile was a mind that was already moving, calculating, planning. That week, something strange happened. First, the English teacher's phone went missing. She had left it on the table during break. When she returned, it was gone. The school searched all the students, but no one found anything. 2 days later, the principal's office was broken into, and exam papers were stolen. The whole school was in chaos. They blamed a student named Chijok, who had once been caught sneaking out during prep. He swore he didn't do it, but no one listened. He was suspended immediately. Amora, sitting quietly in class, acted shocked. "That's so sad," she whispered to her best friend Ngozi. "But you know Chijok always acted somehow." Ngozi nodded slowly, but she didn't look convinced. Later that afternoon, after school, Amora pulled Ngozi aside under the mango tree near the school wall. "Did you bring it?" Amora asked softly. Ngozi opened her bag and handed her a small envelope. Inside was 2,000 Nigerian nairas, money they had earned by helping a senior boy copy his assignments. Amora tucked the money into her blouse. "Good. Now we wait." Ngozi hesitated. "Are we going too far, Amora?" Chijok didn't do anything. Amora's eyes narrowed. "Ngozi, listen. This world doesn't reward good girls who sit and wait. You either play the game, or the game plays you. Remember how they laughed at your mother's stone wrapper? Now you have enough money to buy her a new one." Ngozi looked down, ashamed but silent. That night, in her small room, Amora opened her hidden notebook again. She added 2 new names. She also drew a rough map of the school, the offices, the back fence, the headmistress's quarters. She was planning something bigger than before. Back in school, whispers began. Students talked in hushed tones about the stolen exam papers, the missing items from classrooms, and the strange looks Amora sometimes gave when no one else was watching. "She's too perfect," one student whispered near the water tank. "She never talks much, but she always knows everything," said another. Still, the teachers refused to believe it. "Amora. Impossible. That girl is the pride of our school," Madam Chinyo shouted one morning when a rumor reached her ears. But Ngozi knew the truth. And she wasn't alone anymore. Amora had started a secret club, made up of 4 girls she trusted. Girls who wanted more from life than just waiting and hoping. They called themselves the Hidden Sisters. Each had a role. One collected secrets. One distracted teachers. One moved the money. And Amora. She was the brain. The leader. The one who pulled all the strings. No one suspected her. Not yet. But behind the school walls, behind her pretty smile and soft voice, the real Amora was waking up. By day, Amora was still the same sweet girl, quiet, respectful, always with her head buried in a book. She answered questions in class, helped clean the blackboard, and walked home with her best friend Ngozi like everything was normal. But when the sun set and the village grew quiet, Amora became someone else entirely. She would tell her mother she was going to the neighbor's house to study. Mama Ijeoma, tired from her long day at the market, always nodded and smiled. "Study well, my daughter. You will become someone great." Amora would nod and leave, but she never went to the neighbor's house. Instead, she walked fast, turning into a small bush path that led to the next town. There, in the noisy, dusty streets, she changed her clothes in the back of a small shop owned by an older girl named Tina, who used to be a student at Umidike. Tina had dropped out of school and now worked at a local bar. She liked Amora. Called her smart and dangerous. Amora would tie her hair up, wear lipstick she borrowed from Tina, and put on tight jeans and a shiny blouse. No one from the village would recognize her. Inside the bar, the lights were low and the music loud. Men laughed, played cards, and shouted over drinks. Amora didn't care about the noise. She came for the games. She had learned to play cards and dice, and she was good. Very good. She would sit at a table, act shy at first, then slowly begin to win. One by one, the men lost their money. She always smiled politely and left just before someone could get angry. The money she earned wasn't much, but it was enough. Enough to buy better clothes, a new phone, and sometimes even to bribe a teacher's assistant to give her test answers early. Back at school, nobody knew. Her grades stayed high. Her behavior was still perfect. But in secret, the hidden sisters were growing stronger. Now they had 6 members. Amora had created a system. Edeora spied on teachers' conversations. Ngozi helped collect gossip and blackmail. Chisholm distracted staff while others moved stolen items. Zainab handled the money. And Amora controlled everything like a puppet master. She used secrets like weapons. If a girl didn't obey, she reminded her of the truth she had helped them hide. One girl, after refusing to obey an order, came to school the next day to find her secret love letters pinned on the notice board. She left the school the following week. One evening, Amora stood at the edge of the river behind the school, the sky painted in purple and gold. She looked at her reflection in the water. "I'm not that little girl anymore," she whispered. "I've seen what power feels like." Behind her, Ngozi walked up quietly. "They say the principal is bringing in a new teacher from the city," she said. "A young man, strict and smart." Amora smirked. "Let him come. They all think they can change the game. But I already own the board." But deep in her heart, even Amora didn't know how long her mask would hold. The line between the girl she showed the world and the one she truly was starting to crack. Whispers began like the soft rustle of wind in dry leaves, light, barely there. But soon, they grew louder, heavier, impossible to ignore. "Did you hear?" one woman whispered at the market. "I saw her," another added, adjusting her wrapper. "At night, near the bar in Umule town. Dressed like a nightclub girl." They were talking about Amora. At first, nobody believed it. After all, she was Amora, the school's golden girl, the pride of Umidike. The one who helped Mama carry firewood and greeted elders with both hands. But slowly, story by story, suspicion began to spread. A boy named Tochukwu, whose uncle owned a shop near the town's bar, claimed he saw someone who looked like her. "She looked different," he said to his friends. "But it was her. I swear." The rumors reached the school gates like a slow-moving fire. The teachers rolled their eyes at first. "Jealousy," Madam Chinu said. "That girl is too good," others just want to pull her down. But Mr. Ibuka, the newly transferred teacher from the city, didn't roll his eyes. He listened carefully. He had noticed something. Amora was too perfect. Her grades were excellent, but her eyes were tired. Her hands sometimes smelled faintly of cheap perfume, not the kind a village girl could afford. And once, when he surprised the class with a pop quiz, she had all the answers, too fast, too exact. Something didn't sit right with him. One afternoon, Mr. Ibuka walked past the back of the school compound and saw something strange. Ngozi was speaking to a group of girls in low tones, and as soon as she saw him, she hid something in her skirt. He didn't say anything. Not yet. But he made a note in his book. Something was happening behind the walls of Umidike Secondary School, and he intended to find out. Meanwhile, Amara was growing restless. The whispers were becoming louder. She could feel eyes on her. Even Mama Ijeoma had started asking small questions. "Why do you always come home late these days? Why don't you eat as much anymore?" Amora always smiled. "Extra study time, Mama. We are preparing for exams." Mama Ijeoma nodded, but her heart was uneasy. Then it happened. A girl named Ifeoma, one of the hidden sisters, was caught stealing money from the headmistress's drawer. The alarm was raised. She was taken to the principal's office, shaking with fear. She denied it at first. "I didn't do it alone," she finally cried. "Amora told me to do it." The school fell into silence. The principal blinked in disbelief. "Amora. That girl. Are you mad? But Mr. Ibuka leaned forward. Let's not dismiss it so quickly. News spread like wildfire. Some students were shocked. Others simply nodded like they'd known all along. Amora was called into the office the next morning. She wore her neatest uniform, her face calm. Her eyes, sharp and unreadable. Is this true? The principal asked. Did you lead this girl into stealing? Amora smiled gently. Sir, with all due respect. Ifeoma has always had problems with discipline. Maybe she's trying to blame me because of my record. Mr. Ibuka stared at her for a long moment. Or maybe, you've just been playing the perfect girl for too long. Amora didn't flinch. But for the first time, there was a flicker of something in her eyes, fear. Anger, no one could tell. Outside the office, the students stared. Whispers followed her down the hallway. Some eyes were filled with shock. Others, with something else, recognition. The village had started to talk. And Amora's perfect image. It was beginning to fall apart. The day after Ifeoma's confession, the village buzzed like a disturbed beehive. People gathered in small corners, outside shops, under mango trees, beside cooking fires, talking in low, serious voices. Could it really be Amora? After all the praise? All the awards? All the prayers? The school was no better. Teachers walked around with worried eyes. Some refused to believe it. Others felt betrayed. The girl they had called the blessing had now become a mystery. Inside the school compound, Amora sat alone under the almond tree near the library. Her books were open, but she wasn't reading. Her eyes were staring into nothing. Ngozi approached carefully, her fingers nervously playing with her skirt. They are saying we should confess everything, she whispered. Amora didn't look up. And let them destroy everything we built. Ngozi frowned. It's already falling apart, Amora. Can't you see? Ifeoma has already spoken. Mr. Ibuka is watching. Your mother is asking questions. Amora stood up slowly. Her voice was calm, but her eyes burned. Then we deny. We deny everything. Until the end. That evening, Amora returned home to find Mama Ijeoma waiting outside, arms crossed, eyes swollen from crying. She didn't speak at first. Just stared. Finally, she asked, is it true? Amora opened her mouth, ready to lie, but the words didn't come. Her mother's face, so tired, so full of pain, held her in place. I trusted you, Mama Ijeoma whispered. I believed you were my answered prayer. Tears welled in Amora's eyes, but she blinked them away. Mama, I'm still your daughter. Her mother nodded slowly. Yes. But whose daughter have you become when I'm not watching? That night, neither of them spoke again. Amora lay on her mat, her chest tight. For the first time in months, she didn't open her secret notebook. The next day, she was summoned again, this time not just by the school, but by the village elders. The meeting took place in the village hall. The room was hot and quiet, filled with serious faces, teachers, parents, chiefs. Amora sat at the center, with Mama Ijeoma beside her. Mr. Ibuka stood and read the list of complaints, stolen items, manipulation, lies, gambling rumors, and now the students who had confessed under pressure. Amora remained calm. Until one voice spoke that shattered her shell. It was Elder Kolu, her late father's best friend. I knew your father. He was a good man. This is not the daughter he raised. Amora looked up sharply. Her face twisted in pain. You don't know what I've been through, she snapped suddenly. You all just see what you want to see. The good girl. The obedient one. But none of you ever asked how I was really doing. You just expected me to stay perfect while everything inside me was broken. There was silence. The room froze. Tears now ran freely down her face. My father died when I was 9. My mother struggled every day. I wore torn clothes to school. I watched people look at me with pity. I hated it. I hated feeling small, weak. So I became someone else. Someone strong. Mr. Ebuka stepped forward gently. Amora, becoming strong doesn't mean becoming cruel. Amora bowed her head. I know. For the first time, she didn't deny it. She didn't lie. She didn't smile. She just broke. The village elders didn't punish her harshly. They decided to suspend her from school for 3 months and ordered that she begin community service at the town's old library. Her classmates avoided her. Her teachers walked past her in silence. Amora had become a ghost in the place she once ruled. But deep inside, something had shifted. She was no longer hiding. Now, for the first time in her life, she was ready to face the truth. For 3 months, Amora disappeared from the classroom and the front pew at church. She didn't wear her school uniform. She didn't walk with her head high. She didn't greet the market women with a smile. She spent her days at the old village library, wiping dusty shelves, sorting broken books, and helping children with their reading. It was part of her punishment, but also a chance. A chance to change. The first week, she hated it. The silence, the stares, the shame. Children whispered. Parents pulled their kids away. The librarian, an old woman named Momandidi, barely spoke to her. But Amora came every day. She swept the floors, cleaned the windows, sat quietly and waited for someone, anyone, to believe she could be different. One rainy afternoon, as the clouds rolled over Umidike, Momandidi finally spoke. You used to be the girl this village pointed to with pride, she said, without looking up. Now they point with pity, or anger. Amora looked at her hands. I know. Do you understand why they are hurt? Amora nodded. Because I lied. Because I fooled them. I wore a mask, and they believed it. Momandidi placed a tattered book on the table. It was a storybook, African tales from long ago. Read this, she said. And then tell me what you've learned. That was how it began. Every day, after her cleaning, Amora read. She read about proud warriors who fell because of pride. About clever girls who tricked the village and suffered the truth. About broken hearts, healing spirits, and the power of honesty. The stories touched something in her. They weren't just words, they were mirrors. For the first time, she didn't run from herself. She wrote in a new notebook now, not with lies and schemes, but with reflections. Her thoughts. Her pain. Her plans to do better. Back at home, Mama Ijeoma had softened. She no longer looked at Amora with cold silence. They began talking again, slowly, gently. I'm not angry anymore, Mama Ijeoma said one evening as they peeled cassava. I was just scared. I thought I lost you. Amora placed her hand on her mother's. You didn't. I just lost myself for a while. That night, they ate dinner together for the first time in weeks without a single word of tension. Just laughter, small stories, and quiet peace. Ngozi also came to the library one day. She stood at the doorway, shy and unsure. I'm sorry, she said. I should have spoken up sooner. Amora stood and gave her a tight hug. We were both lost. But we can both start again. They sat together and helped some little children read that afternoon. One of the girls looked up and asked, Are you the big sister who used to be bad? Amora smiled. Yes, I was. But I'm trying to be better now. As the weeks passed, something amazing began to happen. People started nodding when they saw her. Children waved. One elder even handed her groundnuts and said, at least you didn't run away. That's a good sign. Even her old teacher, Madam Chinyu, visited the library and dropped off some books. Make sure you come back to school, she said quietly. The chalk is still waiting. Amora nodded, eyes glistening. She had once used her intelligence to trick, deceive, and control. But now, she was using it to heal, to teach, to grow. She wasn't perfect. She still had bad days. But she was no longer hiding. Amora had walked through fire, but instead of burning others, she was learning how to light the way. 3 months later, Amora stood at the gates of Umidike Secondary School once again. Her uniform felt tighter than before. Not from size, but from weight. The weight of everything she had done, and everything she had learned. Some students turned to stare. A few whispered. But no one said anything to her face. She walked through the compound slowly, head held high, not with pride, but with peace. When she stepped into her classroom, the room fell silent. Then, from the back, Ngozi smiled and waved. That small gesture gave Amora strength. She sat at her old seat, opened her book, and began again. The days moved slowly at first. Some teachers still avoided her eyes. Some classmates never spoke to her again. But others began to see the change. She was no longer chasing attention. She didn't try to lead anyone. She didn't act perfect. She just listened, learned, and helped quietly when she could. Once, when a junior student cried from hunger, Amora gave her the bread from her own lunch bag. No one asked her to. Another time, she stayed after school to help Madam Chinyu clean the classroom, even though she wasn't asked. Little by little, the ice began to melt. At home, Mama Ijeoma often watched her daughter with quiet pride. Their home was still small. Their struggles were still real. But their bond was stronger than ever. Some evenings, they sat under the moonlight, shelling beans and talking like old friends. Mama, Amora said one night, I want to study psychology. I want to understand people, and help them heal. Mama Ijeoma nodded, eyes soft. Then go and do it, my child. Use your pain to help others. A few weeks later, during the school's annual graduation ceremony, something unexpected happened. The headmistress walked onto the stage holding a paper. She smiled at the crowd. Today, we wish to recognize a student, not for being perfect, but for being brave. For falling, and standing up again. For learning, and growing. She called out a name. Amora Ijeoma. Gasps filled the air. Some clapped immediately. Others hesitated. But slowly, the applause grew louder until it filled the schoolyard. Amora stood, stunned. She walked to the stage with trembling hands. She took the microphone and looked out at the crowd, students, teachers, parents, and elders. I used to think strength meant hiding your pain, she said softly. I wore a mask so well, even I started to believe it. But real strength is not about pretending. It's about facing your truth. And still choosing to do better. She paused, her voice shaking. I hurt people. I lost myself. But I'm not proud of the girl I used to be. I'm proud of the one I'm becoming. The crowd was silent. Then someone began to clap. Then another. Then, everyone. Tears rolled down Amora's cheeks, but this time, they weren't from shame. They were from hope. After the ceremony, she walked to the village cemetery. Quietly, she placed a flower by her father's grave. I'm still learning, Papa, she whispered. But I'm trying. And I keep trying, for Mama, for myself, and for everyone I hurt. The wind blew gently through the trees, and Amora smiled through her tears. She wasn't the same girl the village once praised blindly. She was better. Not perfect. Real. And from that day on, her story became something else entirely. Not the girl who fooled the village, but the girl who changed and never gave up.